almost a ghost story. And that's why I'm not touching the remote if I daren't. So the research funded a manuscript assessment for me, which was from the Literary Consultancy. They're the UK's longest standing editorial consultancy, and they advocate for industry level editing for writers. So I was fortunate enough with the funding that I submitted a 70,000 word approximately manuscript to them. I did this in part because I was starting to work in a new genre with the supernatural. It wasn't something I'd really written or looked into in depth before, other than I'd sort of touched on magical realism on a previous novel. So I really wanted some guidance on reader expectations in this genre, and just to make sure, I hadn't made some awful genre mistakes that I was unaware of. But thankfully, the feedback was great, and I submitted, or rather the manuscript, almost a ghost story, was really immersed in the supernatural. So I found their feedback was great, and that they helped me think more about reader expectations. The reader also offered advice on avenues I could explore, not all of which I wanted to, but it was useful to kind of get a broad opinion and a reader's reaction to your writing, which often, as a creative writer or any writer, you don't get until it's too late. So this was a good chance to get in early. And so once I'd had that feedback from them, I worked on the novel some more and did some further editing, and I submitted it to the publisher of my previous novel, who thankfully are going to publish this now in late autumn, and OpenARC will have a thank you acknowledgement in the back. So I suppose the interesting thing about working in this genre and the manuscript assessment is that it's really sparked an interest in ghost stories. And the novel itself is also connected to the OSC Coastlines project. And so I also did another ghost story. It made me start thinking about the connection between ghost stories as ghosts with a small g, like the realist element of them, those missing people in our lives, missing things, as well as the supernatural side. So I also sparked a short story, Revenants, which I've just found out has won a prize for the Fish International Short Story Prize, so that's great. And I'll be looking at some other ghost stories as well, all sort of connected with coastlines and this idea, particularly of smuggling and oral ghost stories. They were a warning to the curious, don't go certain places at certain times. Those lights at night, they're not smugglers. So I thought I would also just give you like the short elevator pitch for the novel and a very tiny extract from near the beginning of it. So almost a ghost story. On an Isle of Wight ferry crossing between life and death, time stops for four strangers and destiny begins. If given one final moment, what would they do for love? And this is the small extract. So Ronan feels the waves around his heart wide open, and she floods in, drowning the rest. The disappointing childhood, the minor betrayals, the anxiety. And as if the answer to life's greatest riddle is being revealed, he laughs too, finally understanding where the cliche comes from, to be swept off your feet. But they will have to surface soon. Above them, unseen, the pink and white clouds part to reveal a nightscape. Darkness has a grey scale, especially at sea, where blue hues and green glow can rise from the cyanobacteria or be reflected by the stars. Everything still exists, even if it can't be seen. The tide floods in, the tide rolls out. Nothing is ever really finished, not life, not love. And sometimes, just sometimes, not even death. Thank you.